Hi, I'm Josh Schoen, Village Administrator for the Village of Richfield. Welcome to our first video blog. In the coming weeks and months, we hope to utilize these video blogs as an opportunity to give you a sneak peek into the happenings here in the Village of Richfield. In addition, this first video blog is intended to be a personal invitation to you, the citizens of Richfield, to attend an upcoming community forum. As you know, one of the hot topics here in the village in the recent weeks, months, and years has been the alleged implementation of municipal sewer and water throughout the village. Most recently, the August Village Board meeting, we had about 150 people attend our meeting to discuss that issue. Unfortunately, there was nothing on the agenda and the discussion really never took place. For those of you who just walked in, and for those of you who are still here, and some of you have already heard this, there is no public hearing tonight about sewer and water. There never was a public hearing about sewer and water. Why you got a flyer that said something about sewer and water, I don't know. There's no plans, there's no planning. Apparently it's referenced somewhere in one of our codes, our code book is called that thing, but tonight.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Therefore, we are in public hearing. Those that wish to speak in the audience, that wish to speak, may come forward to the microphone, give us your name and address, and speak to the issue that's before us on the agenda, which is the subdivision regulations. Remember, this does not have anything to do with sewer and water. That mailing that we all got from the concerned citizen or the group that represents the concerned citizen, it's nothing to do with tonight. As Josh had mentioned, there's no plans for water and sewer. And the administrator and I will stick around at the end of the meeting, try to answer any of the questions that you have. I certainly would encourage you to come to the comprehensive planning sessions that are coming up in the fall.
Good evening, my name is Gilbert Frank, 4156 Elmwood Road, Colgate, Village of Richfield. My for agenda item on the public hearing on the ordinance for subdivision, I have a problem with the wording of section 33-63 in the plans, where it says sanitary sewers and plans showing the locations, grades, and sizes of elevations and materials of required facility. And D, water main plans and profiles showing the locations, grades, and sizes and elevations of the materials required for the facility. And you need to have this in order before they will be able to, you will go forward and with the county. And the change I would like to put in is please change the sanitary sewer plans and profiles to private septic systems or on-site sewer systems, and the water main to private wells or private water systems. The reason for this is if any village board in the future wishes to bring a municipal sewer and water system to the village, this ordinance will have to be changed first and a public hearing will have to be done first. This will give the public a longer lead time to investigate the need for municipal sewer and water before it can be approved by the board in the public works ordinance that allows it. A simpler approach would be to modify the public works ordinance by removing section 2, paragraph A, so the village-wide referendum is required before municipal sewer and water can be introduced on the Highway 175 corridor. That way the people will decide whether municipal sewer and water is allowed anywhere in the village of Richfield. Thank you.
And that was, your reference was 330.63. Is that correct? 330.63?
Yeah, 330-63 plans B and D.
B as in boy and G as in George?
D as in dog.
What are listed on the paper?
They can't take a paper. They can't have anything like that.
They,
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
oh, I know. You're gonna do it. Don't you?
Next, go ahead.
Thank you, President Jeffers. President Jeffers, ladies and gentlemen of the board, village staff, ladies and gentlemen in the audience. After receiving the postcard that probably caused most of you to be here tonight, I decided to do a little digging.
Could you say your name and address for the record, please?
I'm very sorry. Thank you, Jeff. My name is Michael Watson, and my address is 4900 South Lake Road, Colgate, Wisconsin, 53017.
Thank you.
Okay. So after receiving the postcard, I started doing a little digging. And I looked through the subdivision ordinance that this hearing is about tonight, and I discovered that there are 11 pages in that document that reference municipal or sewer or sanitary sewer. 7 of those are very concerning. The village board has repeatedly stated, and President Jeffers did again tonight, in campaign materials like postcards, forums, debates, and on the Village of Richfield's website and other communications, that sewer and water will not be coming to Richfield. If that is correct, then there would be no reason to include municipal or sanitary sewer language in this ordinance. The village board, you, adopted ordinance 2012-6-1 in July 2012 that enabled you, the board, to solely decide on whether to bring municipal sewer and water into Richfield in and along the 175 corridor. I believe there's ample data available to demonstrate municipal sewer and water is not compatible with Richfield's country way of life, and that it would cause taxes to increase. My bigger concern for tonight, however, is if you allowed Richfield residents to vote and decide for themselves through a referendum, or if you obtained in advance through a referendum approval from the Richfield residents to give you sole power and authority to make that decision, I've had no issue with that ordinance, but you did neither. Instead, you deliberately took away the right of Richfield citizens to vote and decide for themselves in that ordinance.
30 seconds.
I ask that you either obtain authority to do this through a voter referendum, or that you remove or revise this ordinance to empower the voters of Richfield to decide whether or not to bring municipal sewer and water anywhere in Richfield through a referendum. Thank you.
Greg Galinsky, 4073 Hubertus Road, Hubertus, Wisconsin. I'd like to comment on the process of the recodification of the subdivision rules. One of the key guiding points that I've learned from attending meetings for 20 years in my time on the board is specificity is very important. There's areas where I don't see enough specificity, enough details in the current code that's being proposed. Our village attorney would second that if he'd be here. There are mentions in 330-21 about plat and land subdivision within extraterritorial jurisdiction, 330-12 land suitability, 330-53 water supply facilities, and 330-51 private sewage disposal systems, which are very important. There's a lot of minutia also in it. But I don't see any distinction regarding subdivisions east of 175. Those are the only ones that you have proposed potentially giving sewer to, if you deem so. Is there a possibility in the code, or rewriting a separate chapter of the code that would just cover subdivisions east of 175? I think from a redundancy standpoint, I know in other portions of the code you stated that sewer can only go there. But I think as a redundancy, it should be also stated in this recodification for subdivisions. So that's my main point. I'd also request that if the sewers do come to those subdivisions, that the public does have the right at a referendum to vote on. Thank you.
Next, please. Anybody else?
Well, I think everybody's said enough here. My name is Bill Myers. I'm from 4655 Sincere Drive in Hubertus. And I'm going to speak about something nobody else asked, which is 330.23. It says all the preliminary plats are supposed to show the following: location of existing and proposed sewer. Because on the state, the nearest such sewers must be feasibly extended. As everybody stated, there's no sewer on the horizon. This language is superfluous. If at some point in the future that does change, then obviously you'd want to address this in the code as well as some other changes. So I'm going to make it simple. I'm going to ask you to vote no on this change tonight. Send it back and get it done right. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I would make a motion to remand this ordinance back to staff to take a look at the language around sewer and water, remove what needs to be removed, and make sure that it's clear as to what the intent really is.
So I have a motion on the floor by Bill. It's the technical word layover.
Table.
Table.
And you need to the September meeting, September 19th at 7:30.
So we have a motion to table the ordinance 2013-0801 to the September meeting with the idea of reviewing the language to make it clear on the reference points that we received tonight and any other ones that we may have missed with regard to the term sewer.
I believe procedurally we'll have to reopen the public hearing and table the public hearing until that
Right,
date.
because we have to have that public hearing in September.
Right. Otherwise, everybody will come back and open the public hearing.
Right, okay. So we'll do that first, and then this motion will come through. We haven't had a second yet, but correct, procedurally?
Right.
Okay.
So I'd like to amend my motion, and that motion would be to reopen the public hearing to lay over for the September, what date is that, Jim? I'm sorry.
September 19th at 7:30.
September 19th at 7:30.
I have a motion on the floor to reopen the public hearing and to table the ordinance
Decision on the ordinance.
until the September 19th meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Rob. Further discussion. Are we clear on what we're voting on? What we're trying to do is, by next meeting, assuming we can, spruce things up, if not, we can later on, but assuming we can get this all accomplished in a month, we'll come back here, reopen the public hearing, take public comment again, like we did tonight, close it, and then have another discussion action process with potentially a vote. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Item number 4, public hearing. Actually, it's a continuation of the public hearing from last month regarding the subdivision regulations. After that, we'll go into B, which is discussion action regarding ordinance 2013-0801, an ordinance to repeal, recreate, rename, and renumber Chapter 66 entitled Subdivision Regulations, and to adopt the Chapter 330 entitled Subdivision of Land. So we are on 4A, public hearing, the continuation of. Josh, would you take a second and just bring those that may not have been here last week up to speed with a brief summary of what we're trying to accomplish here?
Sure, thank you, Mr. President. As we've talked about in the past, we are going through a recodification of our entire village ordinance book. The intent of that primarily was to update references to statutes and other ordinances, as well as go in and clean up various different sections of the code. Specifically relative to the subdivision regulations, last month prior to the meeting, we had gone through and there was only a handful of items that were changed, and I don't think there was anything substantive. After the during the public hearing last month, discussion revolved around various references to municipal sewer and water or water main, and I should say sanitary sewer as opposed to storm sewer, municipal sanitary sewer. So even though those items that had been in there since the original code was adopted, the board gave direction to staff to go through and eliminate those references as to make it clear that there's no intent for sewer and water at any point in time, in the near future, anytime. So village staff went through, word searched the document multiple different times with multiple different ways you could possibly reference it, and I think we've cleared every reference to municipal sewer and water or water main.
Very good. Very good. So at this time, those that wish to speak during the public hearing, you're welcome to come up to the podium, give us your name and address. You'll have, you will be limited to 3 minutes approximately to provide comment. I want to remind you that the public hearing is on Chapter 66 of the subdivision code. So your comments can only address Chapter 66 of the subdivision code. So at this time, procedurally, since we're continuing the public hearing, I don't think I need to procedurally do anything other than to welcome folks up to the podium, or is there a motion that's required?
I believe we left the public hearing open.
That's my recollection.
So we
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're doing this properly. So, first speaker, please come up to the podium. If we have any speakers.
We re-speak? We re-speak? We only allowed one time?
Oh, one time this evening, correct. And Gil, the microphone is not on. If you can find my button, there you go. Hi.
4156 Elmwood Road. I did look through that, you still left that one section with sanitary sewer plans and profiles showing location grades, and I thought you were going to change to make it not ambiguous that it would be on-site sewer. Like septic, I understand that every septic system is a sewer system, but to have it on-site, that was my biggest complaint on that. And I still think we should change the public works ordinance so we don't have to worry about this for these little things like this. That's all I got to say on that tonight.
Okay. Next speaker.
Good evening, Michael Watson, 4900 South Lake Road, Colgate, Wisconsin. First of all, I did read through the subdivision ordinance, and my compliments to the staff for all of the improvements that were made. There were a lot of improvements that were made, and I appreciate that. However, it is still referenced in 338B, 33012A, 33017C, 33024B, 330...
slower, please?
Well, I'll give this to you offline. 33042D, 33051, and 334 under urban development. Now, while I see all those references there, I'm not particularly disturbed about those, but I do support Mr. Frank's comment. I think they all should be taken out. There should be absolutely no reference there.
Reference to sanitary, the exact word sanitary sewer?
Yes, sir. Also, my bigger concern, as was Mr. Frank's, was about the public works ordinance. Now, I understand that's not specifically
That's right.
for tonight.
You're not allowed to dive into that ordinance, so keep pointed at
I will,
subdivision.
if you'll let me continue. Just as though you can't build a house without lumber, you can't have these references to any practical purposes for referencing sewer and water in the subdivision ordinance unless there's a possibility of having it here. And you were very clear in the public works ordinance that west of Highway 175 would have
Again,
referendum.
please maintain comment to the subdivision plan.
That's what I'm referring to, sir, because this
No,
is
you're deviating off into the other ordinance.
Because this is-
Michael Watson, please maintain your comments to chapter 66.
They are, because these relate to that, sir. I only have 3 minutes. Surely you can allow me 3 minutes.
If you maintain your comments at
I
chapter
am,
66.
because they are related to that. So that is my major concern, and specifically then, I don't understand, and I've asked repeatedly, and I have answers.
1 minute.
That was my point. I've been told that the reason the board has to make this decision is that it's a complicated issue, and that only the board is qualified to make that decision. Further, that citizens might be confused by marketing efforts by others. Yet, at the same time, citizens are allowed to make that decision west of 175, but not east of 175. So I find that to be a conflict, and it doesn't make sense. Further, the restrictions on projects making it not possible from spending limitations in the public work ordinance.
Again, I'm repeating myself, you are not keeping on track here. Please, you know what the instructions are.
I heard them, Mr. Jeffords.
Apparently.
Yes, I did. And that's the problem, that there's no way for the public to express their request that you guys revise that public works ordinance. All you do is quiesce that input. And that's what you're doing now. A matter of 3 minutes can't be that big of a problem. Do the right thing. The public has clearly expressed that they don't want it, and all you need to do to solve this problem is to let them vote and decide.
Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please. Going once. Going twice. 3 times. I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
I have a motion on the floor by Bill and seconded by Rock. Discussion. All those in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing is closed. Okay. We are here to discuss what
we would like to do with Chapter 66, subdivision regulations. There's been reference in last month's public hearing, as well as this month, inferring that this ordinance, Chapter 66 subdivisions, inferring that that is the stepping off point to bring sanitary sewer into Richfield. It is not. What is missing in the code, and I think many members of the audience realize this, is there are chapters. If you look at villages, cities that have sewer, Hartford, Slinger, etc., you'll notice that there are entire chapters, ordinance chapters, devoted to sanitary sewer districts, utility districts, and the same thing with water. And we do not have those codes in our ordinance whatsoever. We cannot move forward with the thought of sanitary sewer districts or water utility districts without first passing those codes. It has nothing to do with the subdivision code. So we would have quite an effort in front of us to create and install those two chapters, which we do not have. We've never had in the village. Previous boards felt it wasn't necessary. This board doesn't feel it's necessary to go down that line and install those two chapters for a sanitary district and for water utilities. So the point of the discussion tonight is the subdivision code, which has nothing to do with those other two chapters, which are required. So I asked the board this evening regarding the subdivision code, which is all about giving guidance to developers to move forward with developing a subdivision in the village. So before you is the current code as we've adjusted it, as staff has adjusted it, and I will open it up to discussion to see where you would like to go with the discussion relative to the updated ordinance.
Would we be able to take some time to look over the other chapters that they referenced, or do you think that was done? I know sometimes if you change a wording, you can change the whole content.
We could absolutely go through it if you'd like to. It refers to sanitary sewage. Sanitary sewage doesn't just refer to municipal sewer. Every single septic system in the village is sanitary sewage. So as we went through, we tried to make a determination between what's sanitary sewage referring to holistically, how do we treat crap, and municipal sanitary sewer.
Okay.
We took out all the references to the latter, the former are there, and I'm sure that was what's being done.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Further discussion, Rob?
Could you tell me exactly which items we changed now, that so we can make sure that they're not in there about referring to sewer dispatch?
Josh?
Sure, I did not make a list per se of every single item that was taken out and where from, but the versions that you have in front of you are redlined, and so you can pretty easily see what was removed and what obviously is still there.
Okay, thank you.
If you'd like a list, I guess I can put a list. I'd be more than happy to.
No, it's probably not necessary.
I don't know that there's really, we don't need to really belabor this at all. I think the president was very clear in saying that if we ever even were to consider sanitary sewer and utility districts or a water utility district, we'd have to add 2 chapters to the village code. That requires a lot of public input. There'd be fees impacted as well. We'd have to have hearings on that. We're not in any position to even consider bringing in sewer and water. I'm sorry to say, for the www.nosewer.org, there's a plug for you, Gil. But no, we don't, there's no intention to bring sewer and water in here. So I don't want to belabor it anymore, so I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2013-08-01, an ordinance to repeal, recreate, rename, and renumber chapter 66 entitled Subdivision Regulations, and to adopt chapter 330 entitled Subdivision of Land.
I have a motion on the floor to approve by Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Sandy. Further discussion?
Yeah, I just,
Dan?
I'd like to just make one comment here. I think the real essence here is not the word sanitary, because sanitary means you're cleaning water. So whether it's a municipal or private system, sanitary, I would believe, would apply to both systems. The real thing here would be municipal or private. So I don't have a problem with the ordinance the way it is. I believe we're making a mountain out of a molehill here. So I'm okay with it.
I concur with your line of thought. We only have one choice in the village, and that is septic. We do not have the ordinance code, as I have stated, Bill has also stated, the two chapters related to water and sewer. That all of the communities that have water and sewer have those chapters in which they delineate where the district is and how you go about it, and hundreds of pages of important information if that's your inclination. But it isn't ours. So we can't have municipal water and sewer here without spending a whole lot of time and effort going down that line, which we choose not to. So, further, all those in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.